The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
The volume of premiums attracted by the insurance sector exceeded 1 billion lari in 11 months of 2023, which was 15% more than the data of the same period of the previous year. According to the report, the growth was due to the significant increase in premiums collected from medical insurance as well as auto and life insurance. In 2023, 27,277 people got a driving license. Among them are citizens of foreign countries, 99 of whom are citizens of Russia, 40 of India, 18 of Ukraine, and 31 of Azerbaijan. More specifically, according to the statistical data of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, in the first quarter of last year, driving licenses were issued to 5,746 people in Georgia. In the second quarter, for 7,299 persons. In the third quarter, 7,420 people took the certificate, and in the last 3 months of the year, 6,812. The United Airports of Georgia have announced the completion of a new parking lot at Kutaisi International Airport, which can now accommodate an additional 500 cars. Furthermore, a drainage system has been built in. The project involved laying 20,000 square meters of asphalt, organizing highways, footpaths, and an advanced parking system. Additionally, a new drainage system and a decorative fence have been arranged. The lighting system will be fully operational by the end of the month. This expansion has increased the airport's parking capacity, with the existing parking lot of 200 cars now extended to accommodate 700 vehicles. The upgraded parking facility adheres to international standards. The Union of Georgian Airports have entirely funded the project, amounting to 3.9 million lari investment. Georgia's Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili met with Odil Reno Basso, President of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development (EBRD). At the meeting held within the scope of the World Economic Forum in Davos, the key directions of the successful cooperation between Georgia and the EBRD were discussed, along with projects implemented with support from the EBRD in the public and private sectors alike. The head of government thanked the EBRD President for support and pointed out that the assistance of the EBRD in terms of financing strategic directions allows for carrying out important reforms. Focus was made on the historic decision to grant the EU membership candidate status to Georgia. The Prime Minister spoke about Georgia's success and future plans on the path to European integration. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Guangelashvili, the author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up Business and Economics Week for you. 2 years ago, our economy grew by 10.5%. Also in 2022, our growth rate was 10.4%. Last year, it was 7%. Inflation is very low. In the last 7 months, it was below 1%. Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili stated in his speech at the panel discussion, A New Dawn for Eurasia, held within the scope of the World Economic Forum in Davos. According to the head of government, Georgia's economy is growing rapidly.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for organizing this very important panel. And I also want to join you in congratulating my dear friend, President Vučić, on his great victory. Georgia's economy right now is developing rapidly. In the last 3 years, Georgia's economy grew very fast, and right now we're one of the fastest developing economies in the world. 2 years ago, Georgia's economy grew by 10.5%. Also in 2022, 10.4%. Last year, 7%. Inflation is very low. Last 7 months, it was below 1%. This year, we expect to have more than 5% economic growth. This is a very conservative assessment. So therefore, it's a very good, stable situation. Politically, also, Georgia is very stable. And also you mentioned trade, and everything is growing. Of course, we are expanding our trade connections and relationship. I also want to mention that FDI was also a record number last year. And so therefore, especially after the decision that was made in December that Georgia became an EU candidate country, we expect more FDIs to flow into Georgia. So, my dear colleague, President Vučić mentioned connectivity. Of course, Georgia, as you know, has a very important strategic location, and we're absolutely committed to the development of this so-called middle corridor, which is becoming a very interesting, attractive alternative route. 2 years ago, we signed a very important roadmap together with our colleagues from Kazakhstan and also from Azerbaijan. We have a very clear, let's say, plan how to develop this corridor, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and vice versa. So we know exactly what needs to be done. It means the expansion of ports capacity. It means modernization of our railways, airports, and et cetera, roads infrastructure. I'll share with you recent updates about these very important projects. So this year we want to start construction of a new port, new deep sea port in Anaklia in Georgia on the Black Sea. Also, the railway modernization is in progress, and this will be completed this year. And the capacity of the railroad in Georgia will be doubled, which will reach more than 48 million tons. We're also going to start the construction of a new airport because we want to position ourselves as an aviation hub. And Georgia, because of its location, has full potential to develop itself, to position itself as an aviation hub as well. All the infrastructure projects, such as the road, East-West Highway, everything is going to be completed this year, and other important projects also will be completed in 2 years' time. So I also want to mention the importance of China's interest into this alternative route, so-called middle corridor. I had a very successful trip to China last year. I met with President Xi Jinping, and we decided to elevate our partnership to the strategic level. China's interest has been declared several months ago by President Xi regarding the middle corridor, and I think this will give more impetus and more energy to this, to the development of this corridor. So once again, I want to take this opportunity and publicly thank all the EU leaders who supported the historic decision to grant Georgia the candidate status. This is a huge achievement of our government because since we came to power in 2012, we made enormous efforts and big progress on our EU integration path. Association agreement, free trade agreement, visa-free, and now this was culminated by this decision, and Georgia became EU candidate country. Also want to mention very briefly that Georgia's economy since 2012, since we came to power, doubled in US dollars. In the last 3 years only, Georgia's GDP in US dollars doubled in per capita wise, because in 2020, per capita US dollar in US dollars was $4,250, something like that.
More than 8.
And this year it will be $8,600 already. So therefore, this is a recent update about Georgia. So once again, thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak about our
Very impressive. A lot is happening. Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. Well,
regarding the security situation in the South Caucasus, first of all, of course, you remember the occupation of our sovereign territories. Russia still occupies 20% of our territories, and we had yesterday we discussed about this. 2008, when we had this war, after that war, Russia built military bases and still continues to occupy 20% of our territory. But regardless of this challenge, the security challenge, we managed to achieve an unprecedented and uninterrupted decade of peace and stability, which brought prosperity, economic growth to Georgia. since we regained our independence. We've never experienced such a peaceful, stable situation in Georgia like now, like it is now. Regarding the neighboring countries with Azerbaijan and Armenia, we have a very close relationship and partnership with both countries. They are our brothers, they are our friends, and I did try 2 years ago to mediate or facilitate, and we did successfully first mediation when Azerbaijan released 15 detainees and Armenia gave the maps for the mine territories to Azerbaijan. So this was a successful attempt, but it's a very complex situation. We understand there are many players in this region, and what I want to add to that is that I know that now the position of both leaders of Azerbaijan and Armenia is that they want to deal with each other on a bilateral level. Personally, I think this is the right way to do, because with all the stakeholders, with all the mediators, sometimes it becomes more conflicting and more, less counterproductive. So therefore, I wish them all the best. So I very much hope that they will find a solution, and they will soon sign the peace agreement.
How did business perform this week? Natia Taktakishvili will give us a short overview of main business news and outlook. Petr Tsakadze, director of Porsche Center Tbilisi, declares that the center sold 360 cars in 2023, and this year the company plans to improve the figure by 20%. A very interesting year awaits us as several new models of Porsche are released. The new Panamera will go on sale in March, and the electric Macan will join the Georgian and European markets from the fall. So the customers will be able to place pre-orders in our center from January 25, says Petr Tsakadze. The director of Porsche Center notes that Tegeta Holding has high hopes for the direction of the electric SUV, because the electric direction is a priority for the holding, and the SUV is in demand on the Georgian market. That's why the company plans to develop the infrastructure of electric chargers in 2024. By the end of the first quarter, Porsche Center will install 70 chargers in Tbilisi, and from the second half of the year in Batumi and Kutaisi. Company Agrohub will open 3 new supermarkets this year with an investment of 40 million lari. One of them, located in Zvergamsakhurdia Street, will be built with an investment of 25 million lari and will serve customers from March. The second branch will be opened in Sabotalo district by autumn, and the third branch in Kutaisi late this year. As the director of the company, Lasha Gotziridze, explains, the new branches of Agrohub will be supplied with natural products. According to him, the central enterprise located on the area of 3,000 square meters has full resources to serve new branches along with the existing one. Agrohub produces both dairy and meat products, fruits and vegetables. We also have chicken and egg farm. In fact, we cover all directions in the food industry, Lasha Gotziridze notes. According to Lasha Gotziridze, last year the company increased both production volume and sales rate by 2-digit percentage point. As of him, these directions allows the company to offer many other interesting news to the customers in addition to the opening of new branches. Agrohub currently owns 4 branches in Tbilisi and Batumi and employs 1,800 people. After the opening of 3 new branches planned this year, the number of employees of the company will increase by 900 people. Company Askaneli is planning to build a new enterprise, Irakli Ugulava. The company's executive director told BMDG about it. According to him, despite the fact that company already owns 2 enterprises in Tbilisi and Kakheti, the company should build a new plant due to the production growth. The surge made up 16% last year. The new enterprise will be built on land plot of 2 hectares in Bakurtsikhe with an investment of 15 million lari. At the first stage, or 10 million lari should be invested and 40 people will be employed in it, Ugulava says. As the executive director of the company notes, the processed raw materials are only 10% of their own vineyards and the rest is taken from local farmers. According to him, last year the prices of all products had to increase by about 15% due to the bad harvest. According to Ugulava, in 2023 the company increased the range of quarry wines. This year the company will continue to increase its assortment and in the direction of alcoholic beverages, it's planned to add gin, which is being worked on at this stage. LC Ascanelli Brothers has many years of history in the market and produces about 40 types of wines as well as brands and cha-cha. Children's clothes brand Nicoli plans to launch production of shoes and socks this year. As the founder of the company, Nika Nikolaishvili, said on the air of Business Morning, the company will start adding relevant technical equipment soon. At the same time, the brand is also preparing its first order for Great Britain. At this stage, Nicoli products are exported to Canada, Libya, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. In 2023, productivity increased by 10% due to the demand growth. At the same time, a new showroom and the fourth branch in a row were opened in City Mall of Saburtalo. 2023 was successful. We opened in the market in the retail and corporate direction. The demand in the corporate direction has increased, and because of this, we decided to add human resources to create a separate team which would serve both the children's and adult segments in the direction of uniforms. This decision allowed us to increase productivity and meet demand, said Nika Nikolaishvili. Franchise company of Zara Mango Massimo Dutti plans to renovate brand stores in Georgia this year. As the director of the company, Reza Goliashvili, told BMWG, renovations will take place in the brand stores in 2024, which means that the existing brand stores will be transferred into new concept stores. According to him, the expansion of various branded stores is also planned in the current year. A few days ago, we expanded Mango brand store in City Mall, which has increased in size significantly. Also, there are plans to close the old Mango store in East Point and open it with a new concept by March this year, says Goliashvili. According to him, they grew very quickly in the market, which led to the fact that the business, which started with 200 employees 10 years ago, now has 1,000 employees. The European clothing franchise operator company Sinomi Retail has been operating in Georgia since 2012. The company is presented by 22 branches and 70 stores in Georgia, such as Massimo Dutti, Mango, Oysho, Stradivarius, Kiko Milano, Sunglass Hut, Parfois, Aldo, Charles & Kates, and etc. Company and hotel Brewery Vardia, located in Samtskhe Javakheti, is planning to expand the yard, a golf course and hotel this year. The investment volume will be $40,000 USD. Company founder Zaza Zedgenidze told BMWG about this. According to him, along with accommodation on the site, the hotel offers tasting of quarry beer, local dishes and taking beer buses. In total, the facility can accommodate up to 20 guests. The hotel includes 4 rooms and 2 beer buses. Increasing the number of beer bars depending on the size of the hotel is fully sufficient and meets the demand. Therefore, we don't need to add any bathrooms. The facility is mainly visited by European tourists. Among them are French, Dutch and German tourists. Last year, we added a pool to the facility, investing about $20,000 USD, said Zedgenidze. As for raw materials, according to the founder of the company, beer is brewed from both local as well as imported raw materials from Germany. Brewery Vardia launched a beer, spa and family hotel in September 2021. According to the company's founder, the investment amounted to $50,000. The handmade bag manufacturing company Parma is preparing for the exports. Mariam Koksadze, the founder of the company, spoke about this in Women's Narrative, noting that Parma bags will be sold in Spain from this year. According to her, the brand plans to add accessories to its production and women's clothing line in the next 3 months. The accessories are already ready. Now we are in the test mode to give it to final look, and it will be available to the customers in about a month. In addition, due to the great interest from the customers, we are planning to add a women's clothing line in 3 months, which will have a more emotional load, noted Mariam Koksadze. Parma has been operating on the Georgian market since 2020, which makes handmade bags of various designs for women and children. The price of Parma handmade bags ranges from 35 lari to 135 lari, which can still be purchased with the help of social networks and the website. The latest sparkling wine Cieli, which appeared on the market only a few months ago, will
be exported to Europe and Asia countries this year. Sparkling wine produced by winery Pera di Gradussi is made from Cazzitelli and Saperavi. Cieli is its latest product. The inspiration of its name and sparkling effect is connected to the northern glow. As co-founder of the company, Tata Sauri told BMWG, negotiations with larger enterprises are moving from the active phase to the final stage. Therefore, it's likely that the wine will be sold in European and Asia countries from this year. According to her, the company made 5,000 bottles of wine in the first stage. However, due to the high demand from both local and exporting market, it's planned to diversify the product volumes and assortment more. Specifically, the company is working on the production of 2 new colored wines and sparkling drinks. The family winery Pera di Gradussi plans to build its own enterprise, although the amount of investment is not known at this stage. Pera di Gradussi winery has been operating on the market since 2019, and its production is fully focused on the creation of colored wines. Company Nostra entered the local market amid the pandemic period in 2020, and since then they are working to double production every year. Mindya Sabanadze, chairman of supervisory board of Georgian poultry production, spoke about the development of the poultry brand and noted that the company is focused on the production of high-quality meat products. This is a product that's grown on corn and wheat without any additives. The farm has developed so quickly that today it produces 6,000 tons of unfrozen meat annually. Raw chicken meat is sold only in Nostra branded stores, and it's very popular among customers. It often happens that in the first half of the day, meat is completely sold out in stores. Shortly, we plan to double production, but first we want to open stores, provide infrastructure, and develop production with its sales points step by step, says Mindya Sabanadze.
As the world nears the midpoint of what was intended to be a transformative decade for development, the global economy is set to rack up a sorry record by the end of 2024, the slowest half-decade of GDP growth in 30 years, according to the World Bank's latest Global Economic Prospects report. The Checkpoints interviewed Ayhan Kose, the World Bank's deputy chief economist and director of the Prospects Group, for more in-depth analysis. According to the World Bank, by one measure, the global economy is in a better place than it was a year ago. The risk of a global recession has receded largely because of the strength of the US economy, but mounting geopolitical tensions could create fresh near-term hazards for the world economy. Meanwhile, the medium-term outlook has darkened for many developing economies amid slowing growth in most major economies. Sluggish global trade and the tightest financial conditions indicates. Global trade growth in 2024 is expected to be only half the average in the decade before the pandemic. Meanwhile, borrowing costs for developing economies, especially those with poor credit ratings, are likely to remain steep, with global interest rates stuck at 4-decade highs in inflation-adjusted terms. Let us hear more insights from Ayhan Kose, the World Bank's deputy chief economist and director of the Prospects Group. Mr. Ayhan, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking your time. The global economy is set for the weakest half-decade performance in 30 years. This is the major headline of the report. If we could break the report down into good news and not so good news, what would be your major highlights?
There are some good news, and the good news are that when you think about the multiple shocks global economy has experienced over the past 3 years, we have not seen a major crisis. We have not seen a significant downturn in the global economy. There is still growth. Growth is going to be there with us. Last year it was 2.6%. This year it's going to be 2.4%. At the beginning of last year, many people expected the US economy to have a serious downturn. US has been very resilient, and thanks to the US economy, thanks to robust growth from India, Indonesia, Mexico, Brazil, we ended up, growth around 2.6%. This year, we will see slower growth, but the likelihood of soft landing has increased. So these are all good news. not so good news is that still, when we look at the overall growth performance since the beginning of this decade, from 2020 to 2024, it is going to be the weakest average growth for the global economy we have seen half a decade since the early 1990s. And when you think about the global trade, last year global trade growth was nearly zero. This year it will pick up a little bit, but still will be much weaker than what we saw in the decade prior to the pandemic. And when you think about the external environment developing economies are facing beyond global trade, financing conditions are still quite difficult, real interest rates are quite high, geopolitical tensions have been rising. So there are many reasons to be concerned about as well.
So what is the main reason for the anti-record, as the World Bank called for this economic growth slowdown in this decade? Are we losing to COVID-19? Is it the main reason why this happened?
So we ended up with the weakest half-decade growth performance because of a variety of reasons. When you think about the number of shocks global economy has been buffeted with, starting with, of course, the pandemic, then inflation shock, the real interest rates going up significantly in a very short time period, and then, of course, we had the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and then now we have a major conflict in the Middle East. All of these things were taking place against the background of very high debt levels and really very weak growth of world trade and very weak growth of investment in many countries. So you sum up all of these, you end up with, unfortunately, an unpleasant outcome. The weakest growth in half decade we have seen since the early 1990s.
The World Bank in its report says that this decade should have been a transformative one. Why? What was so transformational about this decade, and what are some of the harshest impacts on this transformation from this global slowdown?
We were hoping by the end of this decade to make significant progress in getting close to sustainable development goals. Those goals were set, almost 10 years ago with the idea that we were going to eliminate extreme poverty. We were going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We were going to make significant progress in terms of health service, in terms of education outcomes, in terms of inclusion. And when you think about the broad progress, we haven't been able to make enough progress. And progress requires economic growth in terms of, increasing investment, in terms of basically providing the necessary education, necessary health services, overcoming the pandemics, epidemics, these contagious diseases, of course, with multiple shocks and weak growth outcomes, and we ended up with a sorry record.
If we take Green Agenda specifically, is it a challenge nowadays or an opportunity in this situation? Because I've read several reports that claim that sticking to the agenda will accelerate the global economic slowdown. What is World Bank's take on that?
We think Green Agenda provides enormous opportunities, not just for advanced economies, for developing economies as well. Energy transition is necessary when we think about the impact of climate change, not just, in certain parts of the world, but pretty much every corner of the world, in terms of the frequency, in terms of the cost of climate-related natural disasters. We will see more of these, and we indeed see a lot of them last year. So we need to have the energy transition taking place. That will require intelligent, efficient, effective investment in basically infrastructure projects that will accelerate this transition. With these projects, we think that there will be more jobs available. And of course, anytime you think about the world transition, that comes with certain challenges. But at the end of the day, these types of challenges did take place in history. This is a major, basically, transition. And we are optimistic that actually by undertaking the necessary green infrastructure projects, we can elevate the growth rate.
While reading this report, somehow this kind of like a big picture comes to the mind that on the one hand, inflation is coming down in most of the parts of the world, monetary policy is easing in many parts of the world, but at the same time, because geopolitical risks are so high, the interest rates still remain high, and in some poor countries, they are higher than ever. What type of picture is that for the globe?
So the good news is that inflation has been coming down and without triggering a sharp increase in unemployment despite record high interest rates. So central banks reacted to the inflation challenge by increasing interest rates. In normal situations, you expect, the economies to slow sharply and unemployment to increase. That has not happened. And hopefully it will not happen this year either. We will see a softer, transition to more normal growth while interest rates coming down. The challenge is that real interest rates, in other words, the inflation-adjusted nominal interest rates remains high, and in all likelihood, they will remain high for the foreseeable future. What does that mean? It means that for countries that have large levels of debt, servicing that debt is going to be costly. And when we think about the weak growth outcomes and the slowdown we see in the global economy against the background of weak growth and high real interest rates, obviously carrying debt is going to be more difficult, paying back debt is going to be more difficult, financing conditions are going to be tight. So on the one hand, there are good news. Inflation has been coming down, and in all likelihood, central banks will start reducing interest rates. But at the same time, the real interest rates, the inflation-adjusted nominal rates, will remain high for the foreseeable future. And that has consequences, especially for those countries that are vulnerable with high debt levels. And that's something for us very, very concerning.
It is logical then to see what the World Bank recommends the world. It says that, focus on investments, on drawing investments, because probably the competition will be high for those investments, higher than ever, on the one hand. And on the other, it suggests that countries need to stick to the more prudent macroeconomic policy. And it's better if they have some kind of framework, macroeconomic framework to develop and to grow further. Please elaborate a little bit on those two main recommendations.
So when we look at countries over a very long period of time, since 1950, what we have seen repeatedly, countries that have been able to increase growth of investment at a sustained level for a protracted period of time. So you just not increase investment for 1 year, 2 years, you are able to increase the growth of investment for 6 years or more, you end up seeing significant growth dividends. Not just growth increases, it increases, the productivity growth, it improves fiscal positions, it attracts foreign direct investment from outside. But more importantly, for countries to basically deliver these types of growth rates, it is essential for them to take care of their fiscal houses. That means having a medium-term plan, how they are going to address deficits and debt. That means improving institutions, property rights, providing an environment for the private sector to flourish, and of course, having the workforce, educated workforce, critical to attract foreign direct investment. So indeed, fiscal policy frameworks are important to basically start as the first step to think about how to accelerate investment growth. Beyond that, monetary policy frameworks also should be improved. And of course, financial policy frameworks, regulation and supervision has to be improved. When you think about all of these together, what is necessary? A comprehensive package of policies. Countries have delivered sustained investment growth over a period of time, and they have seen major dividends associated with that investment growth. Our hope is that they will put together the types of comprehensive policy packages that will trigger these types of investment booms with significant macroeconomic and development gains along with them.
Just to see what type of weight does the global economic slowdown have on specific countries. I know you cannot comment specifically on Georgia, and I'm not, of course, asking that. But do you think that the record of moderate or high economic growth could be a competitive advantage for the country? Could these countries be like more resilient to this global slowdown? Could we say that?
It's important for countries to have strong policy frameworks, a diversified set of growth engines. Of course, trade is critical for many developing economies, but it's important to, have the kind of the domestic market functioning well. It is certainly a challenging external environment for developing economies in terms of the trade growth, in terms of financing conditions. But we believe that with strong, robust policy frameworks, well-defined, very well-articulated fiscal and monetary policies, countries can deliver growth and deliver high growth rates. This will require credibility of, institutions. This will require basically having a well-defined, big picture, comprehensive policy package. We articulate these issues in the context of fiscal policy as well as investment booms in the report.
Would you say that, for example, IMF's involvement in countries and supporting this fiscal framework? Because if we look at the developing countries, in most of them, IMF is present at some point, right? Do you think that is something that global investors would look at? Would that bring up like their confidence into countries or credibilities of these frameworks?
I think at the end of the day, we need to look at country-specific conditions. If countries are working with international organizations, there are certain reasons involved, and this is up to country authorities to determine. And if it is in the best interest of the country, and country authorities see that there is value associated with or working with international organizations, they will, of course, take the necessary step accordingly.
To continue this line of the differences between developed countries and developing countries, what is the main difference in terms of impact?
I think the big difference is that when we look at advanced economies, obviously there was the tightening cycle that started in 2022. The impact of tightening cycle has been increasingly felt. So we are expecting growth to slow down in advanced economies from last year to this year. In the case of emerging market and developing economies, there is obviously a slowdown taking place in China that has repercussions for these economies. Taking out China from the emerging developing economy group, these economies have been performing relatively resiliently thanks to the types of policies they put in place. So there is slowdown around the world, more in some places than others, but the likelihood of soft landing has increased.
And what is the main message of the World Bank for us here in Georgia, for the world? Can boosting investment and strengthening fiscal policies help us turn the tide, or are we too late?
It is going to be important to basically have a comprehensive package of policies when it comes to accelerating investment growth. And that package of policies has multiple legs: fiscal policy, monetary policy, financial policy, structural policies, especially in the context of institutions. These are going to be all critical. When we think about the kind of the record of developing economies and the types of cases we examine in the report, we have seen time and again, repeatedly, countries that have undertaken the policies have seen investment booms, and those investment booms have been associated with significant macroeconomic and development gains.
So we need more investment booms in the world.
As long as these investment booms are the booms in, efficient the projects, the transition projects when it comes to energy issues, of course, they will be associated with strong returns. Our hope is that when countries undertake investment, they will think about pros and cons very carefully. They will think about the types of jobs these investments are going to generate. Nevertheless, to say it is clear in this era, there are multiple reasons why to push investment growth, whether that's going to be, investment domestic originating or bringing foreign direct investment to a country. The investment brings the augmentation of capital, helps accelerate productivity growth, and obviously, creates employment.
Thank you, Mr. Ayhan, for this very, very interesting interview. Thank you so much for being with us and taking your time once again.
Thank you.
Special thanks to Nandita Roy at the World Bank, who facilitated this interview with Mr. Costa, the World Bank's Deputy Chief Economist and Director of the Prospects Group. And we will proceed with some more news in the economy this week.
Georgian Economy Minister Levan Davitashvili on Monday highlighted last year's new record in the country's external trade, noting the figure had reached $6.1 billion, a 9.1% increase from 2021. Davitashvili made the remark in comments on the latest data from the National Statistics Office, saying imports had increased by 14%, amounted to $15.4 billion, while total trade turnover had increased by 12.5% and exceeded $21 billion. He called the data encouraging despite many difficulties and certain delays in specific sectors, and said statistics related to the international commerce indicated good trends we are expected to continue this year. The minister also noted significant economic activity had led to the high trade turnover, the country managed to be an important trading platform under conditions of free economic environment despite the global context in 2023. Tbilisi City Hall terminated the contract with two contractor companies responsible for the rehabilitation of Tsereteli Avenue. According to the available information, the mayor of capital Kakakaladze issued the relevant order on Monday. As he explained in the capital City Hall, the termination of the contract with the contractor company will not affect the terms, and traffic on Tsereteli Avenue will be fully restored within the stipulated time. Tbilisi City Hall directly, the Tbilisi mayor has repeatedly made a statement regarding the irresponsible attitude of the contractor companies. Almost all major infrastructure projects have problems with the contractor companies, so strict monitoring is carried out and the companies are warned, fined or terminated. We are dealing with a similar case during the rehabilitation of Tsereteli Avenue. However, the termination of the contract with the contractor company will not affect the terms, and the traffic on Tsereteli Avenue will be fully restored within the stipulated time, said the statement of the City Hall. Long-term inflation expectations are currently well poised, suggesting a potential return of interest rates to relatively low neutral level in due course. Nevertheless, it's important to acknowledge that such an outcome is not guaranteed given the existence of lingering risk, shared Natia Turnava, acting governor of National Bank of Georgia, during her address at the New Tasks, New Instruments panel at Euromani 2024 Central and Eastern European Forum. In her perspective, recent years have underscored the importance of the central bank's focus on achieving stabilization of inflation as its primary priority. Natia Turnava participated in the panel New Task, New Instruments held as part of Euromani 2024 Central and Eastern European Forum, together with representatives of central banks of the Republic of North Macedonia, Poland, Albania and Lithuania. Within the framework of two-day forum in Vienna, Natia Turnava held meetings with international investors and delivered a presentation on Georgia's financial and macroeconomic landscape. Representatives of financial markets, investors, central bank governors and politicians from more than 45 countries participated in Euromani Central and Eastern European Forum. Mariam Krivishvili, Deputy Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development, evaluated the last year, noting that it was particularly successful for tourist and aviation industries. Over 6 million passengers were transported to Georgia, according to Krivishvili, as a result of the correct policy and action plan of Government of Georgia. The negotiations with partner international airlines were successfully completed, and therefore more new direct flights are being carried out from the international airports of Georgia, especially in the direction of Europe. We managed to increase frequencies to important destinations for us. Most importantly, we see that with increased air traffic in our country, the number of international tourist visits is increasing gradually. It's important that our main strategy in the policy of diversification, it's very gratifying that we see even more direct flights of European airlines to our country, as well as the increasing number of direct flights from the Gulf countries, the Deputy Minister of Economy stated. The Ministry of Health declares that neonatal intensive care treatment is fully funded by the state and does not require co-payment. According to their reports, the reforms implemented by Ministry of Health provide financial access to quality medical services. The information spread by separate media outlets and organizations as if within the framework of the state healthcare program, the intensive treatment of neonatal age is financed only 70% and the citizens has to pay 30% co-financing is not true and serves to deliberately discredit the state program. It's important that when disseminating information about health services, organizations show responsibility and ensure that the information is verified. To inform the public, we clarify that intensive care treatment of neonatal age is fully financed by the state and does not require co-payment, as well as children. Reforms implemented by Ministry of Health are aimed at protecting the interests of citizens and provide financial access to quality medical services, the information states. PIMSI Research Center published a report on outbound tourist dynamics for 2023. According to the document, in December 2023 in Georgia, the hotel price index increased by 10.9% compared to November 2023. 3-star, 4-star and 5-star hotel pricing index increased by 10%, while for guest houses the price index increased by 7%. The monthly hotel price index was the highest in Samtskhe-Javakheti and the lowest in Samegrelo-Zemosvaneti. In December 2023 compared to 2022, hotel price in Georgia decreased by 7%. The price of 3, 4 and 5-star hotels decreased by 10% and the price of guest houses decreased by 5.5%. The yearly hotel price index was the highest in Guria and the lowest in Tbilisi. In Georgia, the average cost of a room in a 3-star hotel was 157 lari per night in December 2023, while the average cost of a room in a 4-star hotel in Georgia was 253 lari per night, and the average cost of a room in a guest house was 123 lari per night. Average cost of a room in a 5-star hotel in Georgia in December 2023 was 407 lari per night. In Kakheti, the average price was 547 lari, followed by Tbilisi 529 lari, Guria 409 lari, and Ajara 325 lari. Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili on Thursday said, while visiting Davos World Economic Forum, that he had very interesting meetings with representatives and heads of large companies, and I think all this will continue. Garibashvili underscored the significance of participating in panel discussion focusing on the development of Middle Corridor. Prime Minister believes Georgia plays a big role in the process. Today, the world order is changing. We see the states no longer respect the international order, and territories of sovereign states are closely encroached upon, and there are ongoing wars. The conversation also touched on the crisis in Ukraine, which directly affects global order. A lot of time was spent discussing the events in Middle East. The events in Israel are crucial to us all, and it's all our best interest to put an end to the war and conflict as quickly as possible to establish and restore peace and stability, Garibashvili noted.
Acting Governor of the National Bank of Georgia took part in the panel New Tasks, New Instruments held at the Central and Eastern European Forum 2024 Forum of Euromoney. Natia Turnava spoke about the role of central banks in maintaining price stability and noted that better results can be achieved by focusing on the main goals of price stability. Further, Natia Turnava elaborated on ways to address structural challenges. In her speech at the panel, the acting governor of the NBG also spoke about the potential for the successful implementation of the monetary policy and structural weaknesses, noting that the highly integrated use of central bank policy tools may contribute to reducing costs related to anchoring inflation. In the pursuit of stabilizing inflation, developing markets can benefit significantly from employing macroprudential tools and proactively accumulating foreign exchange reserves. This strategy has proven effective in mitigating the associated cost, as exemplified by Georgia's experience. In December 2023, Georgia achieved an annual inflation rate of 0.4%, noted Natia Turnava. The panel New Tasks, New Instruments held at the Euromoney Central and Eastern Europe 2024 Forum also included Anita Angelovska-Bezhovska, Governor of the National Bank of the Republic of Macedonia, Marta Kaiteli, First Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of the Republic of Poland, Gent Seiko, Governor of the Bank of Albania, and Gediminas Šimkus, Chairman of the Board of the Bank of Lithuania. Natia Turnava, acting governor of the National Bank of Georgia, held meetings with international investors within the framework of the Euromoney Annual CE Forum. Representatives of financial markets, investors, central bank governors, and politicians from more than 45 countries participated in the two-day Central and Eastern European Forum. Long-term inflation expectations are currently well poised, suggesting a potential return of interest rates to a relatively low neutral level in due course. Nevertheless, it is important to acknowledge that such an outcome is not guaranteed given the existence of lingering risks, shared Natia Turnava, acting governor of the National Bank of Georgia, during her address at the New Tasks, New Instruments panel, the Euromoney 2024 Central and Eastern European Forum. The current challenge lies in preventing the persistent growth of long-term inflationary expectations and ensuring their alignment with the established target. Upholding a moderately stringent policy serves greater confidence in the central bank's approach, particularly following an extended period of deviation from the inflation target, articulated Natia Turnava. In her perspective, recent years have underscored the importance of the central bank's focus on achieving the stabilization of inflation as its primary priority. Natia Turnava participated in the panel New Tasks, New Instruments, held as part of the Euromoney 2024 Central and Eastern European Forum, together with the representatives of the central banks of the Republic of North Macedonia, Poland, Albania, and Lithuania. Within the framework of the two-day forum in Vienna, Natia Turnava held meetings with international investors and delivered a presentation on Georgia's financial and macroeconomic landscape. Representatives of financial markets, investors, central bank governors, and politicians from more than 45 countries participated in the Euromoney Central and Eastern European Forum. And that's all for today. We will meet next Sunday with more news, more analysis, more outlooks. Before that, follow us on BM.G.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.